Hello and welcome back to AP Computer Science Principles. Today we are talking a little bit more about digital copyright and licenses, and we're going to do that by going through the Khan Academy exercises. So let's go ahead and get started. Carla is making a website about the fluffiest dogs. That's a very fluffy dog. She discovers this photo of a dog on a social media account. Assuming U.S. copyright laws, is Carla allowed to use the photo on her website? Well, if you went through the previous videos, this shouldn't be too difficult of a question. She can use the photo if it is explicitly licensed for reuse, like with a Creative Commons license, and she follows the conditions of the license. Well, that's pretty clearly the answer, but let's go ahead and look at the other three as well. If there is no explicit license declared next to the photo, then the photo is in the public domain and can be used freely for any purpose. Absolutely not correct. In fact, if there is no indication of a copyright, then we default to the most restrictive, all rights reserved copyright and not something that is usable. C says she can only use the photo if it has been explicitly stated to be in the public domain. She can't use it if it's licensed any other way. Now, if it's explicitly stated to be in the public domain, that does mean she can use it, but that's not the only way she can use it. She could use it, again, using some other form of license, like a Creative Commons license or something along those lines. So C is not correct. She can use the photo as long as she provides attribution, such as a link back to the social media post and the associated username. This is also not true, and this is a thing that a lot of people have a hard time with. Just because you provide attribution to somebody doesn't mean you're legally allowed to use their work. You have to do so under a specific license or with specific permission. An environmental engineer is researching a new kind of biodegradable plastic and finds exciting results for a rate of decomposition. The engineer wants to make sure that their findings will be available to a diverse audience. Their hope is that journalists, professionals from other industries, and future engineers will be able to read them. What type of publication would be best to support the engineer's goals? An email newsletter for science journalists would certainly get it to journalists, but only to journalists. So that's probably not going to be our answer. An open access journal about environmental engineering. That phrase, open access, is really important because that means that anyone who wants to access it can do so, which means like future environmental engineers, people who are currently students, will still be able to see it. A paid subscription-only journal for environmental engineers would work for a lot of these folks, but again, a paid subscription means that you are gating off an awful lot of people that this person clearly wants to have access to their work. And a local newspaper, again, local newspaper is fine, but it only reaches so many people. I think the correct answer is B, an open access journal about environmental engineering. Blender is a free application for creating 3D computer graphics and animations. Here is an example of a modeling project. Blender is released under the General Public License, an open source license. Here is their website's description of that license. Here we go. This license grants people a number of freedoms. You are free to use Blender for any purpose. You are free to distribute Blender. You can study how Blender works and change it. You can distribute changed versions of Blender. And it says the GPL strictly aims at protecting these freedoms, requiring everyone to share their modifications when they also share the software in public. So essentially, basically, you can use or modify this program in any way you want. Just let people know that you modified it. Okay. So, what is an implication of this open source license? A software engineer can use Blender codebase to create a slightly modified version of Blender and allow others to legally download it. Well, that's correct, but let's go ahead and look at the other three. Any artwork created in the Blender application can be freely used and distributed by anyone. This is not true because just because the program Blender is open source doesn't mean the things you create on the program are also open source. If I had an open source version of Photoshop, I would still have the copyright to any artwork that I made using that open source version of Photoshop. If you create a movie using Blender, you must allow other people to view that movie for free. Also false, it specifically says you are free to use Blender for any purpose. It doesn't say anything about restricting commercial purposes. So you can, in fact, make a movie in Blender and then sell it if you want to. Students can look at the Blender codebase to learn how to make computer graphics applications, but industry professionals cannot. So this is the part that makes this one incorrect. Students can look at the Blender codebase and learn how to make graphics applications, but so can industry professionals. The correct answer is A. Miss O'Keefe is a high school computer science teacher that is developing robotics projects for her class and publishing them online. She wants other teachers to be able to use and adapt the projects for their classrooms, but she doesn't want companies to be able to sell the project plans for a profit. What approach will allow other teachers to use the projects but not allow companies to make a profit off of them? So before I even look at the answers, I'm going to say that some sort of non-commercial license is necessary here, possibly using Creative Commons, something that keeps someone from using it for commercial purposes. A, the teacher should write, "This work is available in the public domain on each project plan." Definitely not, because public domain means that people can use it in any way they want, including making money. B, the teacher should write, "This work is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution non-commercial license." That's the best one I've seen so far, but it's not entirely accurate. You do want to actually have a link to your license, but that's neither here nor there. C, the teacher should put the MIT open source license on the bottom of each project plan. Again, open source generally means that people can use it however they want, and she wants to restrict people from using the project for commercial purposes, so C is not correct. The teacher should write copyright C 2019 O'Keefe on each of the project plans. This is fine, she can do that, but it doesn't give permission to people to use it. What D would do is restrict everybody from using it in any way, and people would have to come to her for permission individually in order to use her projects. I think the answer is B. But again, I think that B is not sufficient. When we went and did the episode on Creative Commons, it specifically said you also want to have a link that people can click on to go to the specifics of your license. And that is digital copyright and licenses. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.